Hello, family. I wanted to jump on here very quickly just to share a word with you that the Spirit of God placed upon my heart for the church that I pray that you find encouraging where you are. I want to say this in love because it deals with something that I see that is really concerning to me in our present age. We have to mature to the point as believers to where we embrace and understand the difference between satanic opposition and an absence of grace, because there are two different things. And what I mean by that is that sometimes we attribute to Satan the blame for why things aren't working. And sometimes they're not working because there is no grace. And that's a totally different thing. And the reason there is no grace is because many times we don't have clarity that God even told us to do them in the first place. And like I say, this requires a lot of maturity. This requires a lot of, a whole lot of introspection for us as the children of God. But it must be done because Satan loves nothing more than to see God's people preoccupied with him when he's not even there. Because you enter a life of shadow boxing. You spend the rest of your life forging ahead against this enemy that's really not there. The real issue is there's no grace. And there's no grace because God didn't commission us to do it. So I just want to encourage you, wherever you are in your life, have the purity of heart. You know, being pure in heart is more than just treating others right. As a matter of fact, much of our purity of heart when it comes to treating others right comes from really how honest we are with ourselves. One of the first things about being pure in heart is to be honest with self. And it's time for the church to find the purity of heart, to say what is God and what isn't. And not to say so for somebody else, but to say so for self first. Right? Let judgment begin at the house of God. This is the house of God, right here. My house, my body is the temple. So in this house first, let my judgment begin. And it's time for us to really be honest about whether or not we're hearing from God, whether or not God said to do this, that, or the other, because many times God is getting a bad reputation because his children are running around spending money they don't have because he didn't give it to them. And they're making the Father look really bad because we are disobedient and we're walking around doing things that we should not. And so take this in love, in the spirit that it's given. It is correction, but it's not condemnation. We can do better. We have to do better. And if we're going to see better, that is to say, if we're going to see more of God's grace, more of his power, more of his ability manifested on our behalf in these weird times we live in, we're going to have to get honest with ourselves as to whether or not we're being directed of the Spirit of God to do the things that we're doing, because it's costing us. It really is costing us. And it's very concerning to see people fail artificially because they just didn't have the grace to do it in the first place because God didn't say so. But we couldn't be honest to just admit that and to be able to live our lives at room temperature until God says otherwise. So God bless you. I love you. And I pray that you find this word encouraging in some way.